Thank you very much. I'd like to start off by saying that I have come to Brussels because obviously there is the European Council tomorrow, and we know that one of the main issues for discussion is going to be the financing and changes of the multi-financial framework, the MFF, financing for Ukraine facility. Obviously, we do support Ukraine and we do support financing for Ukraine, but we have to highlight that obviously this has to happen without damaging our common policies, in particular the common agricultural policy. From the viewpoint of the agenda of the European Council, I know full well that there are all sorts of other issues that are going to be discussed, not only those that are very closely linked to the conclusions of the European Council. So perhaps I can address some of the main issues where perhaps we have a slightly different view and opinion compared to our political opponents. Those who are currently governing in Poland will be represented at the European Council. The first issue where there's a main difference is the agreement on the migration pact, i.e. the disagreement on the distribution arrangement for illegal migrants and financing of this. We feel that this view and this approach is something that we are going to be trying to disseminate to our interlocutors in Europe, and we feel that the only effective way of trying to deal with migration in the long term is not to open the doors to Europe, but to have a better control on the borders and to have a more modest but honest policy towards those countries where there is a lot of migratory pressure and where we see, which are obviously countries of origin of a lot of the migrants. And we are considering, and probably will be considering, a veto on this kind of approach to illegal migration. So the approach that is being put forward currently by the government in Warsaw, in Poland. And there's another difference between ourselves and our opponents in Warsaw and perhaps some others in the European Council, and that is the reform of the treaties. I don't know whether tomorrow there will be discussion on this particular issue. It's possible, even though it is not a specific point on the in the conclusions. But I think it's worthwhile just dwelling on our position here, saying something about our viewpoint. Further centralization of the whole decision-making process in Europe is basically a road to nowhere, because it's going to lead to an increase in various radical groupings and atmospheres in all parts of Europe. And if we were to follow this path to enlarging the European Union, it means, of course, that there would be a reduction in the competences of the European Commission. So there wouldn't be any further commonality of policies, but basically would be going back to a situation sort of 20, 30 years ago, where the European Union perhaps was easier to govern because there weren't that many areas, there weren't that many issues where the European Union had competences. So obviously, when it comes to the work that's being done on the treaties, being carried out today, leading to doing away with the right of veto and having further powers and competences transferred to Brussels, i.e. to cover different sectors where we would have more qualified majority voting, we feel that all of this would lead to a dangerous phenomenon in the European Union. The first was Ukraine, second, illegal migration. The third issue, changes to the treaties. The fourth area the tax changes related to some of the things that are being done at the moment. Once again, the new government in Warsaw has agreed to so-called own resources on the basis of 3 new taxes. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, tax matters are within the bailiwick of the member states, the competences of the member states. And so obviously you can only have unanimous voting on anything to do with tax issues within the council for the kind of decisions that are to be taken. And agreement being given by the Polish government to 3 new taxes which are going to be very costly for Poland. Obviously, we have Polish journalists here in the room, so we would have to highlight this particular point. The idea is to take the 25% ETS into the central budget. And at the moment, this forms part of the Polish budget. So transferring that to the Central European Union budget, that is going to obviously be detrimental to Poland and Polish interests. So these are the main issues that I wish to address. But I know, of course, that today in Europe there are very many farmers right across the European Union who are very concerned about the European Commission and their policies in the area of agriculture. I would like to take this opportunity to express our solidarity with the Polish, the French and the Belgian farmers, those who are going to be demonstrating tomorrow about the excess administration which is linked to the Green Deal. And this is highly unjust as well for countries like Poland, because there is a whole aspect of competition between farmers and countries. So I think we have to introduce some good sense here. And then, of course, there's the tension around the European Union, which depends on a lot of different policies. Obviously, from Poland, we do support Ukraine in their fight against Russia, because this is absolutely key to guarantee safety and security on our continent and to guarantee stability, which is so important for economic growth in a society in the future. So that's what I'd like to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
Please identify yourself and the medium you represent. Yes.